Hello.
Hello, bienvenue.
Bienvenue.
Welcome in Belgium.
Thank you.
This is a Bifff.
Yes.
First time here?
It is, yes. First time at Bifff, and it's amazing. Yeah, I'm really enjoying myself.
And first time also as director.
Yes. First time as a director. It's it's quite a thing. Yeah, it's very exciting.
How do you feel about your first impression of the Bifff, and you had your film has been shown to the audience?
Yes.
What was the reaction?
Well, I came to see the opening night film, which was The Drop, right? And I've never been to Bifff before, and I was like, wow, because everyone's very immersive and everyone talks through it and shouts and gets very excited. So it was like totally different experience for me that I've ever experienced. But I really enjoyed it because I felt like the audience were really, enjoying the experience. And I thought that was great. I was slightly nervous. I felt because it was a very different kind of film to something like The Drop. My film is quite a quiet film in a sense, even though it's sort of psychological horror with some dark comedy undertones. It was very different. So I was kind of thinking, oh my goodness, are people going to be shouting out, and is that going to be awkward? But actually. It went really well. So, they seemed to react in the right places. I don't think they were bored. It was good. I really enjoyed it. I hadn't seen it for quite a long time. So it was nice. I have seen it millions of times, obviously, but it was nice to see it with a different audience, because obviously each festival is different. Each audience is different. And I'd never been to Bifff, and I had the joy of singing a song beforehand.
What one was?
I sung Fever, not very well, obviously, but it was only because there's a kind of connection in the film to it. So I thought, I'll do that one, and it's great. I ruined it, obviously, but
When you show your movie, when you are actress or when you are director, is to the audience for the first time, of course, it's total difference, the emotion.
Yeah, totally different. Yeah, I think as an actor, it's still really personal and very emotional. But as a director, I think it's on my shoulders, and I'm the one. If people don't like it, they're going to point the finger at me. It's not going to necessarily be the actors. It's so I think it's very humbling, and I'm not going to lie, it's terrifying. That's what it is, and it's difficult to watch an audience. And I wasn't going to watch it tonight on Wednesday night, but I made myself, because I thought it's going to be. I kind of made myself watch it more because I wanted to hear what the audience were going to do, if they were going to shout out or do all of that kind of stuff. But I was pleasantly surprised. It wouldn't have mattered if they'd shouted out, but because it's a quiet film, it would have been strange if there was a lot of audience participation. It would have kind of lost the tone and the mood. So I felt like the audience were very respectful of that, and they got the right notes, the right beats, within it. I hope it went okay. I think so.
And so after that, you are more comfortable?
Yeah, I just haven't experienced this before, and I think it's such a brilliant, exciting festival. So anything could happen. That's what it felt like. I felt anything can happen, which is cool, right? It's good. It's good. So, but yeah, it was great. It felt good.
Psychologic, gothic movies. It's your thematic or not?
I think so. I think I really love the platform of horror as for storytelling, because I think there's so many subgenres within the genre, and I think it's you can go anywhere. It doesn't matter. You know, there's no boundaries, and I think it really lets your imagination go mad, and it's a very creative genre: horror, fantasy, sci-fi. And I also think, from my experience, that the audience, the horror, the genre audience, are an amazing audience, because they are very open-minded. Whereas some people only will watch romantic comedies, some people will only watch period drama, whatever, and that's fine, that's good. But I think the horror audience, the genre audience, should I say, will watch anything, any genre. And yeah, I think they're a great supporting audience.
Second thematic in the movie is family and the image of the family, the real image or the image of the family. Is that fun for you?
Is the family important? Sorry.
Yes, important in terms of the subject of a movie. In terms of it's all right.
Yes, I think family. Yes,
It's not just term of families, it's
yes,
different nations and so on. So
yes. I think family. Yeah, and grief, and the themes that the film touches on. I think it touches on so many things: isolation, loss, love, grief, not fitting in. That there's, I feel that and family, and how important family is, and if you lose your family, and when I say family, I don't just mean your blood family. You can have people can have family, you know, friends who are family can sometimes be closer than family. So it's the idea of loss of the people you love, you know, and that's different for everybody. And I think it's a broad spectrum, but I feel that in the case of Sybil, in the case of the telling of the story of this film, her loss was obviously rooted in the loss of her family, and how it affected her for the rest of her life. And you could lose your family by not necessarily losing them through death, lose your family in other areas, in other ways, and how it can affect you as a person. And there is a grief, whether it be through death or through just your family not being present. So I think that was really important to look at. But obviously I had to focus it on the story, which was her story. But I think it's a universal story.
When you have this idea of the family, of the story, how you developed it? Have an idea? You see something on the newspaper, maybe you read a script, and how in your mind you developed something, and you said, I will make my movie like this and like that. And with this actress and this actors.
I think the development of the story, it came from a short story, which was a short film, which was the kind of the seed of the movie. And it was a 12-minute short film. And then got developed obviously into a feature film. But for me, I was always interested. I think people fascinate me. I'm very interested in people, why they do the things and why they say the things and why they act like they do. And do they really mean that? And, you know, there's It's so nuanced and complicated and messy sometimes. And I suppose for this story, I really wanted to understand why Sybil did the things that she did. Because on the surface, she does terrible things. And you could just, society could just palm her off as someone who shouldn't be within our society, should be taken away, should be locked away, you know, whatever. But I wanted to understand why she did the things she did and what made her tick, and the levels of her loneliness and isolation. So I suppose, you know, that it could touch on, you know, things that happened in my life. I could, you know, brought things out and of other people's lives. I wanted to make her as real as I could, but within the genre. So it's slightly heightened, it's not real. But I wanted to make her real so that people could, on a level, relate to her, even though they might they should disagree with everything that she does. But there is I think there's a sympathy for her.
And how did you choose your actress? Because it should be difficult.
Yeah. So, yes. I auditioned quite a lot of actresses for the role. And I didn't have the luxury of meeting them because I was in Belgrade, in Serbia, because that's where we were filming. So I didn't have the luxury of going back over to London to meet the actresses, which was really hard because most of the time we all know that it's much better to meet someone in person than over Zoom or whatever, a self-tape. However, I had to, you know, work with what I was given, and there was a lot of self-tapes of actresses, all great actresses. But I was always looking for something slightly different, slightly quirky, I suppose. And an actress one of the actresses, who is the actress, Rebecca Calder, sent in her tape. And one of the things, I mean, aside from her doing a wonderful tape, I'd always heard the character in Yorkshire, which is the north of England, because it's a very British film and it was set in Yorkshire. So it was important to me that the accent had to be right. However, she did the accent in a Newcastle accent, which is the northeast of England, which is like a Geordie, you say a Geordie. And I hadn't thought of that. And she did it in a Geordie accent because that's where she's originally from. And that was just like, yes. Because the Geordie accent is a very friendly, welcoming accent, which is a beautiful juxtaposition to the surface of what Sybil does and her actions. And it just clicked. I went, yes, perfect. Because I'd asked them all to do Yorkshire accent, but she did it in a Geordie, and it was just perfect. And I got so excited, and I knew it. I mean, aside from her being, when you watch the film, she is incredible.
How long it takes for a movie?
20 days.
20 days?
Yes. Yes, we did.
Not so long, eh?
And we had a day rehearsal. Yeah. So, I had a day rehearsal with Rebecca, but we did a lot of talking. So she came over to Belgrade. So that was the first time I met her. When she came over, I think it was like 2 weeks before we started filming. So she was getting costume fittings and makeup and hair tests and stuff. And we had a read through, and then I think I had a day of rehearsals with her, But we were talking all the time. We were going out for coffee and, you know, chatting about everything. She was really great. She had so many questions. She was amazing because she didn't have that long to prepare for such an intense role. But she really threw herself into it. Yeah, she was amazing. I was very lucky.
I noticed since several years now we have more and more women as directors. Is that new for you, or?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I would have come to it earlier myself. You know, I didn't think when I was, you know, in my early 20s, it wasn't a thing to me that women could be directors. It just wasn't. And I thought the only way I always loved storytelling. I always loved, you know, acting, writing, whatever. But I thought the only way I could get into the industry was by being an actor, by going to drama school. I mean, that's what I didn't have any connections with anybody. So I did. I went to a drama school. It was a wonderful 3 years, and I loved acting, and I did a lot of work in theatre and TV and film, radio and stuff. But it's funny how life works, because I got an opportunity, and I did a couple of short films, which I loved doing. And then I got an opportunity because someone emailed me and asked me if I had any genre scripts. And I said, yeah, I do, but I'll send you one. If you don't like this one, I've got a few others. Anyway, to cut a long story short, they liked it, and they said it wasn't quite finished, and they wanted to work on it with us. And but I said, I was being really bold actually, and I said, well, if you want it, I have to direct it. And they had a few conversations and discussions and meetings about it, because I'd only directed 2 short films, and they took a punt on me and said, yeah. So that sort of thing never happens to me, you know what I mean? It was a kind of out of the blue thing.
And do you think this could happen 20 years ago?
No. I think I feel very, very lucky, but I think I've worked really hard. And I've, you know, co-produced and co-written other feature films. So, but I've, you know, extremely, extremely low micro budget. So I've kind of learned the craft that way. But this was kind of a dream come true, really, for me.
You have a new project now?
Yes, I have a few. I mean, you know, I'm always, until you press record on that camera, anything can happen, and it can still happen after you press record. So, yes, in answer to your question, hopefully something will go into production either the end of this year or beginning of next year. We're at casting stage.
Same thematic, horror, or
fantastic?
Fantastic.
Yeah, fantasy. Yeah.
Okay.
Fantasy. Sort of more, you know, I'd like to sort of, I don't want to say Del Toro, because I do love Del Toro, but it's kind of more sort of fantasy horror.
Okay.
Kind of.
With the same actress?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay. It's too early.
Yeah. Although I will work with her again for sure. If I can, she'll let me.
But to come again to Broken Board, just one sentence, what you would like to say to the audience about your movie, your film?
So I think it's, I mean, the actual summary of the movie is it's a woman who is struggling through the loss of and the trauma of her childhood, and she's looking for love, she's looking for belonging, she's looking for companionship in a world that she doesn't really fit into, and she's looking for that in a very unconventional way.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much.